You and your team of specialists are trying to steal pieces of art, but you're not actually stealing them from the museums. You're actually trying to find pieces of art that were previously stolen by other thieves, so you're actually trying to steal them back from the people who already stole the piece of artwork. Make sense? Hi friends, welcome back to Board Game Buzz today. My name is Carly, and today we are going to be reviewing the 1 to 6 player game, The Art Project from the A.R.T. I already kind of briefly explained the thematics of the game here, but this is a cooperative game where everybody around the table is working basically as secret vigilantes, and you are going around trying to steal back pieces of art from the evil White Hand corporation that's already stolen all these pieces. So once you successfully steal back the stolen art pieces, then you win the game. Now, before I share my thoughts on this game, I'm going to give you a really general overview of how this game plays, and then we'll jump back here and I'll share my thoughts on the art project. So in this game, this is a cooperative game where every round players will draw 2 mission cards at the beginning of every round, and then players will discuss and figure out which cards to play and in what order to play those cards, all while dealing with a shared pool of resources, trying to collect pieces of art and get rid of the White Hand, or fight against the White Hand that is around the board. And so very briefly, we're going to kind of go through what a round looks like. So at the beginning of the round, every player, so this is a 3-player game that I kind of have set up, will draw 2 cards from this little mission deck here. Now these cards, you have to keep them secret, and you can't show other players, but you can freely talk about what is on your cards, which is kind of interesting. So you can talk, but you just can't show what are on your specific mission cards. Now, after everybody has drawn and kind of chatted about kind of what they have, now everybody has to play one of these mission cards. Now these cards tell you at the very top, usually some sort of resource that you have to spend. This mark in the middle shows the number of white hands that will actually be placed onto the board in specific locations. So if I were to play this card, for example, 1 white hand would be placed on this location, so like that. And then also by playing this card, I actually gain 2 additional health. So there is my extra health. And now that this card has been completed, it actually flips over and you place this somewhere off to the side of the board. I don't have a lot of room, so I'll just place it right here for right now. So now the other players will go around the table and play their cards. So these are the 2 cards that my opponents both played. Now it's important to keep in mind, when you are spending and gaining resources, you actually don't gain them to your personal player area. They actually all come to this van. So there's this kind of shared pool of resources that you will be dealing with as a team. So I'm going to go ahead and add the white hands to the board that these specific cards require. I also went ahead and updated the resources for playing these cards. So now that my opponents have used these cards, they go ahead and get placed on top of the other spent cards for this round. So now something interesting happens. All the cards that are played throughout all the rounds will gradually stack on top of each other like so. And the moment that there are 3 identical matching symbols on the cards that were spent, then a piece of artwork actually gets dropped on the board. And where that artwork gets dropped is on the city that has that matching, the 3 identical matching symbols here. So I'll go ahead and get an art piece and I will drop it on this city location, which happens to be right there. Bloop! So that completes the first part of the round, which is called the mission. Now we move on to the second part of the round, which is the movement. How the movement operates is players can choose to spend fuel tokens in order to maneuver around this board. That's important because where you move, you can collect art pieces, but then you can also battle the White Hand. And you definitely want to keep them under control or the city will become lost, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So for this example, we're going to go ahead and, you know what, I really want to collect this piece of art. So me and my partner here, we are going to move to this next into that city. We have to spend 2 fuel because both of us are moving 1 spot in order to do so. If there were no agents here at the time of moving in and there was an art piece, we could automatically just collect that art piece. But since there is white hand there, we're going to have to battle, which comes into, this is the next kind of phase of the round, which is called the fight. How we go about doing that is with our dice here. Because I'm sharing this location with a partner, I can, I'll choose to, we partner together, so we get to pool our dice together along with the 1 die that is inherently available at the beginning of the game. So we're going to roll this dice and see what our outcome is. Booyah! Okay, that was actually a really awesome roll. Okay, so when you are fighting, you roll the dice, and you are basically battling against the number of agents that are at the location that you're on, along with the threat level, which is shown up here at the top of the board. So the lowest number that is revealed, that is the threat level that you're dealing with. So inherently, we're dealing with a 6 right now, along with 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now we have to beat 10. We were able to roll a 13 here, so we automatically win. Now, if we happen to have rolled a lower number, our guns here that are in our personal supply, we can actually spend those to increase, I believe it boosts your die roll by 2. So I mean, you could spend all of these tokens if you want to, just to keep boosting your number in order to win that fight. But yeah, so that's something that you can do to kind of help mitigate your dice. You can also choose to discard these clue cards here to allow you to re-roll. For every card you discard, you can re-roll 1 dice. So that's something else you can do to help mitigate your dice roll. So since we did win, all of the white hand actually gets removed from that location. So we'll go ahead and take those off. Because we are on a location now with no white hand that an art box is in, we actually automatically collect that art. If we would have lost, then the white hand would have remained, the artwork would have been uncollected, and whoever was the leader for that fight. When you do join in a fight, you choose whoever is the leader, and whoever was the leader would lose a health token because of their loss of that fight. After the fight phase is over and everybody has gone through all their fights, now it's the end of the round, and so now you go through and you check all of your cities, and if there's any cities that have 5 or more white hands on it at the end of the round, the city actually becomes lost. When it becomes lost, we have these little white hand tokens. The white hands that are on it gets removed, and it gets replaced with 1 of these white hand tokens that gets placed on that city. And now nobody is able to actually move through that city anymore. It kind of becomes lost. And if at a future turn, white hands you're instructed to place white hands on that city that is lost, instead of being placed on that city, it actually comes up here to this threat level, constantly increasing the threat of the white hands, making it very, very difficult to beat them. So you want to really be aware of the amount of white hands that are on the board and try to control that the best you can. And so that is basically what a turn looks like. Again, here's the reference card. You start with the mission, which is drawing and playing cards. Movement, again, spending your gasoline, shared resource gasoline to move around the board. Fight if needs be, and then it triggers the end of the round, which you check to see how many white hands are on the cities and if any of them become lost, and then it starts a new round. So it's important to keep in mind this art track here. As you are collecting art pieces, you actually are gradually increasing their threat level with the more pieces of art that you are acquiring. I guess you could think of it as you're slowly pissing them off as you collect more and more art pieces. So that's something to kind of be aware as you're going around and collecting the board. There also are ways, when the game starts, you start with 1 dice, but you can actually spend walkie-talkies to unlock more dice throughout the game, which can really help you with your battles. Obviously, this being a cooperative game, there are many ways that we can lose this game. One of the ways is if any player loses their last health token, then we lose. There's this end tile that is placed within this deck here. If that ever gets revealed, that triggers the end of the round, and if you don't win by the end of the round, then you lose the game. And then also, if you cannot place agents or a lost city marker on the board, then you lose the game. And the way you win the game is by successfully collecting all of the art pieces, fully filling up this track, then you win the game. So yeah, lots of ways to lose, and only one way to win with the art project. So now I'm going to go ahead and kind of jump into my final thoughts on this game, what I liked, what I didn't like, or what I could potentially see others not liking. So starting off with what I liked about this game, something that was really interesting was how this, like the cadence or the rhythm of the game. Because lots of cooperative games, or some cooperative games, when you play it, I mean, there are like hurdles you kind of have to overcome, but then you overcome that hurdle and you're like, okay, let's like ramp it up again for the next one or something. But this game, as the game goes on, it actually gets very, very hard to win. So at the beginning, you're like, collecting the art pieces, you're like, oh, this is fine. But then you kind of realize, you're like, wait, the more we collect, the more powerful they actually become. So it gets really hard. And so everybody around the table, you really, really, really have to be on your A game, working together to be the most efficient you possibly can be in order to win this game. It's really satisfying when you are able to successfully kind of work with your partners around the table and get exactly what you need and be really efficient with your turns. I loved how this game comes with so many different modules. Let me actually go ahead. I'll actually grab to show you. Okay, so I don't know if this is considered modules or not. Maybe there, I don't know. But it comes with a lot of different boards that you can use, and every single board, it really changes up the way that the game is played. So what I have showing right now, this is like the Japan map. So this is the starter map that they suggest you start with. Well, on the flip side of this, I think it's Egypt is on the flip side of this. There's also Hawaii, there's America, there is a few others. I forgot what they are. But it's really fun because when you decide to take out this game, you can just choose what map you want to do, and inherently something about the game is going to change. Like I know I really like the Egypt one personally, because when you play on the Egypt one, you don't have to spend gasoline when you're moving. I believe it's up the river, but when you turn around and move back down, that's when you have to use the gasoline. And so you're kind of playing along the Nile, going up and down. And it's really interesting, and it's so fun once you understand the core base game to be able to jump into the other modules that kind of still have that core, but change things up a little bit. I was actually really impressed when I opened the box. I was like, wow, this comes with like so many different ways to play this core game. So I really, really, really enjoyed that. You really need to be working together because, again, as you collect this art, they're just kind of going to be constantly becoming more powerful throughout the game. So it's super nice to be able to kind of move with somebody, almost like, especially if you're playing with a higher player count, you're able to kind of almost like pair up with somebody and kind of work your way around the board with them if you're able to, because you really need that extra dice. And kind of coming back to the dice, I like how you kind of have to unlock the dice, these little black extra dice. It's kind of like another puzzle you have to think of, and the more that you unlock, they actually become cheaper as the game goes on. So it's not quite as hard because your resources are really, they're tricky. It's tricky to kind of manage all your resources. So it's nice that after you work really hard to unlock that first die at the beginning of the game, when it's easier and you're not using your resources quite as much. And so you kind of get that one out of the way, and you know that every previous die that you are able to unlock, it slowly becomes cheaper. I actually really liked the shared resources in this game too. I really like how everybody is collectively pulling from the same set of resources and adding to that same set of resources. It was interesting because, I would have a card and I'd be like, I can do something really cool, but I need a gun to be able to do that. And then someone around the table is like, ooh, I can play this gun, but I need some gas to be able to do that. So it kind of creates these chain moments. I also really like how the players are the ones who are determining where the art boxes are being dropped on the map. This is really, really tricky because there are times where a city becomes lost, or a city has a lot of white hands, or you have you have a teammate who is on a space that has no white hands. So if you're able to play the correct cards, you can drop an art box and they can automatically just pick it up because there's no white hands on that particular location. So I really loved how the way that you were trying to line up your cards, trying to drop the art boxes on particular locations, and that was really satisfying when you were able to do that and you drop an art box and you're able to pick it up. It worked out really well. I felt like the rules were really clear too. I love how I feel like all rulebooks should do this, but they have these like awesome tabs on the side that made it just really nice to go through. And whenever I had a question about something, I was able to just super quickly take out the rulebook, flip to the exact tab that I needed, and I was able to find my answer like that. I really think that more rulebooks need to implement this because it was so slick. It made teaching the game and playing the game so much easier, just simply like having those tabs on the side of the rulebook. So coming into some of the things that I might have liked about this game, or things I could potentially see others not liking, I think my biggest takeaway with the game is I feel like sometimes I'm not really doing much. I feel like, and I don't know how to describe it. And I think what it's missing is if me as a player, because you have these really cool characters that I feel like, I mean, the Vincent Dutrait artwork is incredible in this game. Absolutely amazing. I like this cover, just looks so beautiful, and it carries off onto the board here. But I just feel like, I mean, you get these cool characters, and you don't really do anything from anybody else. And the cards that you're collecting, like, I wish that there would have been like player powers or something that would change it up. I feel like that would help change up the games, and it would help you too feel more important in the cards that you're laying down, because you could be like, oh, I have this ability so I can help with this, and then you have that ability so you can kind of help break the game that way a little bit or something. And I wish I could fully describe it more, but I just feel like when you're selecting these cards and you're secretly looking at them, and you're trying your best to work around the people at the table, I still just didn't really feel like I was super important to the game. Sometimes I felt like I could leave and the other players could continue going on without me and nobody would have noticed. And in this game, especially with the theme, I feel like it just is really lacking that level of individuality that I feel like could have been added to this game. I really like cooperative games that do that, when you take on a character and then in turn take on certain abilities that nobody else can have. It kind of feels like you're bringing something important and special to the table, and I think you kind of need that in cooperative games personally. A little nitpick I have is I feel like these tokens are kind of really small. I wish they would have been slightly bigger or slightly easier to handle. I think if you have like bigger fingers, especially like these hearts are really small personally. So that's just kind of something small that I noticed. I know I'm a self-proclaimed like really big themer in games. I really love theme, and I feel like the theme just doesn't really come through super strong for me personally. These cards, basically, they're kind of read very mechanical. They feel like just mechanical, and the way you use them feels mechanical. So for me, I don't know why I'm spending a heart here, and then a white hand gets placed on this city, and then because of that, I gain 2 guns and a walkie-talkie. Like it feels just like, I don't know, it feels like a mechanical game, and that might be a pro for some people, and I do think that this puzzle does work. Just for me, I just love so much theme in games. I wish, and this is such a cool theme too, such a cool theme in regards to, you're trying to steal back the art that was previously stolen. So I wish that would have just come through a little bit stronger for me personally. There also are some times when you're playing this and it kind of feels like all hope is lost. Like it just feels kind of grindy, feels like you kind of just have to put in the work, and sometimes you're doing that fully knowing that most likely you're going to lose. And the games that I have done that, I've put in the work, I've gone through the grind, but it still feels like I'm going to lose. Most of the time, we still do lose at that point. So this is kind of one of those games that if you do feel like you're going to lose and it's just kind of getting to that point, you might as well just start over again, restart, and see if you can hit it better or attack it a different angle or different way the next game. So coming into my final thoughts on Art Project, I am going to be giving Art Project a 6 out of 10. Now, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10 with a caveat that I truly feel like this game will be amazing for some people. I think some people would absolutely love this game. I do think the puzzle works, and I do think it is interesting, but for me personally, there's nothing really about this game that is intriguing enough that I would want to pull it off the shelf. I don't see the theme particularly strong. I kind of struggle with a limited communication. So I have some of these setbacks that personally for me, I don't have a ton of enjoyment going into this game, and I think I've realized that the more I've played. I really played this game so much trying to find the joy in it, and I don't know, it just didn't really hit super hard for me. But again, I do think that this is a good game, and I think it has really good core mechanisms that I think will work really well for some people. So going back to what I liked, if all those things, and even going back to what I disliked, if you watch those segments or that segment and this game does sound interesting to you, I do think you will enjoy it. I do not think this is a bad game at all. I just don't think it hit super hard for me personally, and I just don't really have a ton of interest. I just kind of feel like this about it. I'm like, oh, it's okay. It has some stuff that I like, but nothing about it is really drawing me back to it. And so that's why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. All right, so those are my thoughts and final rating for the art project from the op. If you've played this game and you enjoyed it, please let me know why in all the comments below. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later. See? This is the game we're reviewing today. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
These.
Those ones?
Yes.
Oh, they're pretty good. See, these are walkie-talkies.
Yes.
Say hello.